you ever felt frustrated, overwhelmed, or stuck wasting time in admin instead of growing, leveraging, and scaling your business? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to Delegate to Elevate, the podcast that's all about handing off what you don't need to do so you can focus on what you do best. So here's your host, Bonnie Schutz.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Delegate to Elevate. Get done. Oh my goodness. It is Administrative Professionals Month. Did you know that? Administrative Professionals Day is April 23rd, and today I have an admin in general, I don't know what, an administrative professional of the past like myself who has excelled into many, many places. And her name is Monique Helstrom. Welcome, Monique. I would like to tell you a little bit more about her before we dive in today. So she is someone who has mastered one of the most powerful relationships in business, the relationship between an executive and their assistant. Right up our alley, right? Oh. Monique Helstrom spent nearly a decade as executive assistant, producer, and chief of, drumroll, Simon Sinek. Yes, that Simon Sinek, the TED Talk phenom and best-selling author. Through that experience and years of coaching and consulting since then, Monique has gained deep insights into what makes this partnership work or fall flat. She specializes in bridging the gap between executives and assistants through personalized coaching, practical strategies, and real talk solutions. Her approach is rooted in truth. Executives are rarely taught how to work with an assistant. Amen, sister. And assistants, they're expected to step into a role that adapts to the executive's every move, often without a roadmap. That's where Monique comes in. Whether she's helping a team hire their next great admin, leading a workshop, or delivering one of her energetic keynotes, Monique's mission is clear: transform confusion into clarity, frustration into function, all my love languages, and working relationships into true partnerships built on trust, efficiency, and mutual success. She's equal parts firecracker and strategist, my kind of gal. Someone who once got in trouble for talking too much now gets paid to use her voice to help others grow. Yes. I love it. I always tell you guys how exciting I am to have my guest, but this one, second to none. Hi, Monique again.
Hi, Bonnie. Hi, everyone.
Hi, I'm so excited to have you here today because it is just such an apropos time of year with this subject we're going to dive in today because so far on my podcast, I haven't really dove in much as to like my background being an EA for nearly 3 decades before I pivoted in my second act of life into doing what I do today, similar to what you did. We took what we could do as admins and pivoted into growth and making more money. And that's by the way, folks, just so you know, Admin Professionals Day is April 23rd. So don't forget your admins. Here we go. Let's dive into it. Monique, let's talk about, or let's help our listeners think about it when they're ready to hire an assistant, maybe what kind of assistant they need, because there are different kinds, and what they need to be ready to do from the get. Go.
What the entrepreneur needs to do from the get-go?
Yeah.
What do they need to do?
Yeah.
Well, first you need to figure out what you need. As a recruiter yourself, times we talk to the people who call us and are needing some sort of administrative help. And then we say, well, what do you need? And they say something like calendar and email. And I say, well, what do you mean by that? Do you want someone to control it end to end and be a decision maker and thoughtful and know your priorities and understand your background? Or do you want someone to move around meetings? Any meeting that you say, any meeting that happens, you just want me to so there's a range. So you got to figure out exactly what you're looking for before you just say, I need help. Because the thing of it is, we know how to do a lot of things, the ones that have been doing this for a while. So the clearer you are on what you need, the clearer we will be on what we need.
That is so, so true. There was an episode I did toward the beginning of the podcast was the 7 C's, and you all can refer back to that episode. But one of the biggest ones is clarity. Be very clear on your needs. Like she said, like, what are your needs? Look at your budget. Look at, what you've got, how many things you're juggling, who else is on your team that might benefit from their assistance as well. Think about, so maybe Monique, you could give them a little more idea of this. When do you know, as a professional service provider like myself, when to hire like an employee, or is an executive assistant employee someone you hire first? Or is that someone that maybe you dip your toes into a contract virtual executive assistant first and then hire an employee because you're so used to it? I don't know.
Well, again, this is going to depend on what you're doing and what your needs are,
Right.
If you have a side hustle, and you're a service provider and you have a side hustle, but you still need someone to be logistically capable on the back end and help you with your administrative side. Maybe you just need someone part-time as well because you're part-time. It's not really your full-time thing either. So maybe you just have someone X amount of hours a week, and then you can divvy that out. There's a number of services that do things like that. There's a number of places that do anywhere from, hourly type of work to the type of work that you provide.
Yeah.
So, or are you running a business where you already have a partner, you've established your S Corp, C Corp, LLC, everything's ready to go. You're 2 years into it, 3 years into it, and you're doing stuff that is dragging you down. The stuff that is tedious, the stuff that when you have to do it, you roll your eyes and go, please, someone call me now, get me out of the way, get me to not do this.
Yeah.
That's when you need to think about hiring someone that's going to stay with you, that's going to understand your priorities, understand your goals, be a step ahead of you, help you grow your business. If you're not ready to grow your business, you're not ready to hire an EA. Because that's
a golden nugget. Yeah. I mean, if you're just if you feel like you have to hire an assistant because everybody's saying you need an assistant, that's probably not the right reason.
It's not going to work if that happens,
Like, what do you do? Yeah. And I think there's a lot of us that think,
jump off the bridge, would you? My friends told you to jump off a bridge, would you? It's the same thing. I've definitely had people like, my friends told me I need an assistant. I'm like, call me back when you think you need an assistant.
That is so true. And having a VA agency, I have to deal with this on a regular basis. It is a lot of friends and colleagues and coaches, no offense, coaches, love you all, that suggest they need support. And when they hear the word support, they immediately think admin. And, as you and I both know, there's other support in businesses, especially in whatever phase of business you're at. But since today is, what we're talking about is executive assistant or virtual executive assistant. Something happened when I left corporate a couple of years later. I left in 2017, and this role of chief of staff came up. It did not exist when I was there, which makes me think of your chief of Simon Sinek. I love that. Did you come up with that, or did he come up with that?
I think we sort of did it together.
Yeah.
We had a few iterations of other things that I probably can't say live on this situation right now. But I think, at the end of, I think he said to me something like, at the end of the day, Mo, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm the chief of you, man. And he was like, done.
That sounds perfect. Let's put it on your business card.
That was on my business card. Simon.
That's cool. So maybe you can clarify for people who let's say this scenario, they have had a virtual executive assistant, but they need to level up. And since I honestly have not done a recruitment yet for a chief of staff, can you tell me what they might, if they think they need somebody higher, leveled up from an executive assistant or a virtual executive assistant, what is the difference between that and a chief of staff or an online business manager / fractional COO in the virtual world is what we might call it.
Sure. As you just saw right there, one of the issues that we have is that we have like 100 different titles. For what we do. Are you a chief of staff? There's a new one, executive business partner. There's executive assistant, administrative business partner, executive administrative business. There's
There's way too many.
It is a nonstop. So it's funny that if we can't even agree on some sort of semblance of what our titles are, how can anyone else?
Right.
We're going to go with the general idea of the difference between the executive assistant and the chief of staff.
Okay.
So the executive assistant is working on the machine, the logistics, the day-to-day operations of everything that happens with either the department that they work under or the human that they work under, making sure that the functionality is going, greasing those wheels, making sure the machine is running, all the things that are happening, getting that chessboard set up, calendars and schedules and boop, boop, boop. Like the abilities that we have is really astounding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know about you, but being on the other side of it now, I look back on what I did. I was like, how in the world?
You could say the F-bomb.
It was hard.
How in the did I do that? Because this is a funny one for me. So I have so much more mad respect. Listen to me, boys, because it's mostly guys that I supported. I thought my old bosses sat in their office, putting their legs up on the desk, and I did all the work. And that's gave me that sour taste for what a CEO goes through. Now that it all, rolls upstream to me. Oh, the mad respect I have for those men now and a couple women. But so much bad respect. It's not as easy as I thought it was for them.
Yeah. So back to what I was saying, you know, the executive assistant is the machine of your day-to-day operations. Everything that you're doing, she or he is with you in real time.
Yep.
The chief of staff is in a different position completely. They're more strategic. They're more pushing projects forward. Okay. They're pushing initiatives forward. They're pushing changes to the direction in the company forward. They're moving larger pools of people, projects, tasks. You know, it's one person sitting on top of the ruler over top of these projects.
Okay.
Not necessarily doing the day-to-day operations.
That makes sense.
Staff usually has an executive assistant to help them because they're the ones that are working with the executive and going, what do we need this company, the organization, the sales? What is your goal? And what are the projects that we have as a company to push those forward? Okay. And then they're the force behind that. So you can kind of see the difference in that. Do you need a day-to-day help, or do you need a strategist to help you figure out how to get a project out of a stuck phase? Yeah. So what do you think, like most in generally, or with who you've worked with, has someone brought on someone of that level or that caliber first, or an executive right arm, add my arms to my calendar type person first? A little bit of both. I tend to work a little bit more with smaller companies and entrepreneurs and small teams. For the most part, I mean, that's not ubiquitous, but I tend to work with the smaller teams. So they need a world-class diamond executive assistant, shiny, with a trident in their hand, standing tall, like, I know this business. Give me your calendar. Give me your calendar.
Just stop thinking. I've got you.
I've got you. I have hired more recently this executive business partner role, which is somewhere in between the chief of staff.
I like that.
Executive assistant. So.
Okay. That's neat, because in my world, it would be like the fractional COO or online business manager is what we might call it. So, and on our side, it seems like, organically what's happened is that they have hired more of the right arm, the assistant, the executive assistant or virtual assistant, to do the calendaring, the travel, all the back end, be the accountability partner, the to-do list person, and then brought on a higher role, which is a little back-ass word to me, if I'm being honest.
Depends on what you do for your company. If you're you're the one that has to be in the strategic spot, and unfortunately, you're the one that has to roll that stuff downhill. Yeah. That's really hard to do.
It is.
But if you're a solopreneur, that's what you need. That's what you need.
Exactly. So what about you? Like, I know it's not necessarily admin, but have you outsourced or delegated anything in your business and your consultancy?
Yes, 100%. Not necessarily the assistant part of it yet, which I am not far away from. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's so funny being the person who I'm like, maybe I'll have enough money this year, not to buy things, but to hire an admin. Like that's
yes. I agree.
So I haven't hired for that yet, but I do outsource the things that I hate. And
Yay.
God, as I get older, I realize the things that I hate and I never want to do again. And one of them is like marketing, social media, all the kind of day-to-day graphic design, sort of, bookkeeping, so social media is a great outsource. Bookkeeping and finance is a great outsource. Marketing has so many arms beyond.
Oh, yeah. Between branding and marketing and messaging. Yeah.
Do you need a brochure made? Do you need something like that? The other thing that we really need that sometimes solopreneurs and small teams don't think about is, we have all these systems that we're using. Let's say we're using a CRM or a Salesforce or a Who's What's It or a Doo-Doo-Doo. And we're manually inputting a lot of things in there because we don't know how to connect things on the back end.
Right.
One of the greatest monies I've ever spent was hiring someone to code for me how to connect my systems. Talk to each other on the back end, that when I hit go button, they talk to each other.
Yes. Is that like a Zapier kind of thing? A Zapier? I don't know what they call them.
I have Zapier, and this is like custom made.
Ooh, nice.
For the places that you're not supposed to have Zapier.
Shh, we won't tell anybody. Nobody can listen to this. We haven't said anything.
I mean, how helpful, I spent so much time manually taking things from a system to another system.
Yes.
It's too much.
So I didn't know such a thing existed until I'd been in this for a while, that there are ops pros, they call themselves, and they are just operations based. They're not admins, they're ops. And they can also be equated to like a tech VA. And they'll come in and they'll kind of analyze what you've got going on and what kind of tool you need, like a Zapier. God, I wish I knew how to pronounce that. Anyway, I'll figure that out after this. But they'll come in and analyze that as a project, like a start date, end date, and let you, make sure you're off and running on your own, and they'll step out. There's lots of options like that too. And, but the tried and true for me, in my opinion, and probably yours, is a right arm. If you want to move forward, you don't need to be in Canva all day. You don't need to be trying to organize your calendar, trying to figure out how to use Calendly. I mean, I'm just thinking of the things that I've done in the past, and it's like what used to seem to come so naturally to me as an EA, being the worst. Not the worst. I'm not the worst delegator, but being the less than perfect delegator that I should be by now is all the things I used to do all the time. Like, come on, people, do it.
No doubt.
So worth it.
The one thing I'll tell your audience, or I'll plead with your audience, is don't wait till it's too late. Don't wait until your hair's on fire to hire an admin, because again, you probably hear this too. I get admins who call me, or executives or entrepreneurs or solopreneurs call me, and they're like, I need someone tomorrow. I know I have 17 clients. And here's the thing: once I hire them, I'm not going to have any time to spend with them. So they're probably just going to have to do this all on their own, because it's like the Matrix when you could just upload information into somebody's. I'm like, what? So don't wait until your hair's on fire. Please. You have to spend time. Yes. It's time. Like everyone's like, well, how do we get around that? Stop. It's time. Trust takes time.
Yes.
T&E, time and energy.
Not time and expense. Well, that may be an expense too. But
time and energy.
But it is such an expense that is worth it, because, I mean, we're tooting our own horns because of what we do, but like being in it ourselves, we have now realized how much we brought to the table as EAs back in our corporate days. And God bless every admin out there this month, especially, and every day, honestly, because like you said, there's different types. So identify the type of assistant you want. If you are a solopreneur, maybe you need that real strong, high level, right arm COO type chief of staff person, because you're lonely. and you have no one to pass it off of. Or you just need somebody to take it off your plate. Like schedule stuff for me and do some research for me, and all that time suck that you're spending could be delegated so easy to an assistant. And I say assistant in general because, it's all the different types. But
you have to be clear on what you need in order to delegate it to them.
Yes.
Don't expect them, we're great, but we're not plug and play.
No.
You can't plug us in and then we work, or, and I say you have to tell us what your goals and your needs, and you have to say, here's what I need from you. I need X, Y, Z. I need you to do this. Like, I want it in red. Here's my
clarity.
Be specific.
And say it more than once, or put it in 2 different places. So that, you know what I mean? Like, so if I was been tasked with something by email, also send it in Slack like that. Cause when my brain, this is just how I work. Like, where did I read that message from him or her? And I might go to one different place on a Tuesday and a different place on a Wednesday. And this is just a tip that can work. There's a lot of people that have been recently, I've seen be diagnosed with ADHD on adult onset. And so this is that clarity. Who knows where they're going to go? But this is just something that I've learned that really works good for my VAs is like a double communication pipe. So stuff to refer back to could be in your Slack channel or it could be in your email. But that's that thing you got to set from the beginning. What is your communication? I call them love language. What's your communication style? How do I get you fast? Or how do I just, how's your day off to you? Whatever, like it's all about priorities, investing time. Oh my God, I talk about that constantly. It is a time investment. So that's one thing you really got to be ready for too.
Yeah, you have to be ready for it.
Plan that stuff out because it's something you probably want to block on your calendar. Yeah, spend the day with my EA.
And if your hair's on fire and you're like, I don't have time to spend with them, but I need one out anyway. Don't do it because guess what? Right. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It will fail. I'm sorry to tell you this, but if you don't spend time and energy with your assistant of any sorts to tell them about what's dragging you down, what things you need them to do, how you want them done, when you want them done, be clarity. Yep. It's not going to work. They're going to hate you and you're going to hate them.
It is so true.
Sorry.
I've had those situations and it becomes a mind reading game. And if you don't know somebody well enough, you cannot read their mind. Right. And that was one of the reasons I stopped being an EA. Is the mind reading. And, it is so true for the virtual assistant side too. And it's a constant thing that my account management team has to deal with is, they can't read your mind. You have to communicate and over communicate. And I imagine it's the same for remote executive assistants that are employees. This remote world as it is, over communicate people. Who cares? Just say it 3 times. I don't care. Yeah. I'd rather see it 3 times. Then I'm really confirmed of what you need and I don't have to guess.
Yes.
So good Lord. Good Lord. Do I have the stories? How about this? If folks were to take away a couple, golden nuggets of maybe think back to your time spent with Simon and how that just blossomed into an amazing partnership and, of when an executive or, super popular person like him brings you on that lets you into their life. Because for me, it was one of those things that if I knew about them personally, which is sometimes hard for people, but the more I knew about personal lives and what they had going on, the name of their aunt, their uncle, their dog, their wife, their kids. So-and-so plays soccer and my wife's seeing her aunt that's ill. And these things made my servant nature just explode. And I think most assistants have that servant nature and that's just going to make them be a better assistant. So long question there, but more about like, what can you give us as a golden nugget that just made that relationship work so well for you? If there's one thing, there's not many.
I can't give you one golden nugget because there wasn't one thing.
No, okay, that's all right.
100 little things, and it was actually, if I say one thing, consistency. That's
All
what made
right.
us work.
Okay.
Together almost a decade. Consistency in how often we met with each other and how our processes work on not only in our relationship, but in what I was then tasked to do from there. Consistency.
Yes.
We were always talking. We were always working things out.
Yeah.
And things get crunchy when you're growing old with someone, things get crunchy.
It's a relationship like a marriage. It truly is. Yeah.
But he learned how to communicate with me. I learned how to communicate with him. We didn't do it great all the time. We fell down.
I feel it.
That's another thing. We made mistakes.
Yes.
I've talked about it all the time. We had epic fights, man.
Ooh.
Epic fights.
Ooh, I love hearing that.
But then, we would be done because, that's,
You'd be like, okay, we're done. This is not productive.
usually had nothing to do with him or me anyway.
Ah, interesting.
So, we just kind of let those things go. And, there was a lot of mutual respect.
Nice.
I know in previous jobs, I think I would not maybe disrespect my executive's position or whoever that was, saying they're so lazy. I can't believe, what they're doing, what they get.
With their feet on their desk, like I gave that example. Yep.
Yeah. We respected each other's skill set. I never made him be organized because he wasn't.
Okay. So you were intuitive enough to know that he's just not an organized guy. I have to adapt.
Wasn't gonna work. Stop trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Just stop. It was a definition of insanity. And he, didn't ask me for certain things too because I didn't have the capabilities that he had. His like idea brain session meetings. He would be like, "You can't come in. This is not for you. This is not your playground." I'm like,
you'll be like, ah.
So we knew our lanes and respected each other's.
Oh my God, I love that.
It wasn't more.
Yeah.
It wasn't number one and number two. It was number one and A.
Right. Exactly. Oh, I love that. I like that. It wasn't number one and A. Oh, hey, that's good. I'm going to quote that.
It was number one and A. We were both just world class at what we did.
Yeah.
And we were very much allowed to be world class at what we did.
Partners. I mean, it is your partner. It is not an inferior person you're throwing stuff at. It is a partnership. And I say this because if you want it to work and work well and long term, you've got to go into it thinking of it as a strategic partnership at whatever level admin you seek to work with.
Yes.
And that goes for any other service provider that you may utilize, as well. So, call them references too and ask the tough questions. I'm not kidding. I mean, like, how was she to work with? Was she ever in a bad mood? Did she, do this, that, and the other thing? And does that bother you?
Yeah.
And it's about openness. And I don't know if that comes with age and just more confidence as I've gotten older, but I'll impart this upon all the younger people that haven't quite experienced the crap that I have. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to get clarity. Ask it 3 times. And if he said, "Why are you asking me that?" Just say, "I want to be 100% certain this is what you're asking for."
Yeah.
Wow. And that works both ways. And I went that way because of the way you said you respected each other as one in A. Yeah. So that's asking questions both directions.
Yeah. The other thing you need to make sure of is that it's a personality fit. Yes. The skill set has to fit, but the personality almost is more important. The technical skills can be taught a little bit.
A bit.
So make sure that you like this human being. Make sure that you have the same values, big time.
Yes.
Make sure that you like kind of doing this. I mean, they don't need to be a carbon copy of you, but I always tell my solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, I'm like, make sure you want to pick up the phone at the end of the day and call this person.
And this makes you release.
That's my measure of success.
Yes. They help you breathe.
When I talk to them after a year, I'm like, "Do you still want to call her at the end of the day?" And they're like, "I do."
Oh, I love that.
That's what you want. Personality, that's
Oh, I
what
love that.
trust happens there in the relationship.
Yeah.
The relationship building is super important, and then
Mhm.
the skills are a
Oh my
bonus.
goodness. Yeah. That's why people should call Monique. If you need to find an EA as an employee, give her a ring, a ding. We're going to share all her information of how you can find her and contact her online and all that good stuff. But oh my goodness, this has been amazing for me. We are, like I said, recording this during Administrative Professionals Month. I'm going to try to get it to air this same month so that it makes sense. We've had some great guests that's put our, production schedule out a little ways, but I think it's important that we get this one out this month. So I'm going to pop you up there for this one. But yes, I think there are plenty of golden nuggets that she and I'm just going to take a little bit with her too. Because we just have such a similar background, other than I never supported Simon Sinek. I supported guys that were probably as cool or as not so cool. You never know. But yeah, 35 years we've done this. And I think being with just somebody that's such a close colleague of mine and being able to talk about our love language being EAs at our core, no matter what we've pivoted to as we've gotten older or matured or developed into, whatever you want to say, I will always be an admin at my core. Do you feel that way a little bit?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. I don't know if it was just me. I go to admin, and I have kept one client for myself for 15 hours a month. That's it. Just so that when my business is stressing me, I can go back to my core and do something that I could do in my sleep.
I love it. Oh, you need it. It's like your whoopee,
I do. It's my whoopee. I love it.
I get that.
I'm going to tell him that he's my whoopee.
He's my whoopee. What's funny is when you were saying, like, who would you hire out? No joke. I would probably hire like a CEO, because it's just not like him.
CEO.
I like doing things. I am a doer. I am a roll up your sleeves.
Yes.
I want to get in an Excel spreadsheet. I like talking to people. I like lists. I like writing things. I don't want to be the visionary. I don't want to come up with the ideas.
Isn't that interesting?
Anyway.
Yeah, so, I did that exact thing with this podcast. There's a consulting and marketing company working with me on it. And I'm like, jumped 10 steps ahead of them. I'm like, so I did this, this, and this. Was I a little hasty? She's like, yes. I'm like, oops. Because I was just anticipating they weren't going fast enough for me, because I'm a details person. But I'm stepping into my CEO-ship in the last couple of years. I really have. And I've evolved a lot. And between the confidence and knowing that I need even more help in my business, my most recent level up of a VA that was a standard intermediate virtual assistant is to bring her up to my VA. So I do now, within the last couple months, have a VA that supports me as my assistant. I'm building her up into more of a strategic partnership role. And I'm pretty excited about it. Next step would be giving up my calendar, my inbox. That's going to be like, I might have to text you that day. I did it.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, knowing people like you and I, if they keep listening, everybody's going to delegate and they're going to elevate lots, because they're going to get some great tips and tricks from us. So.
You don't have to do it all. And you can't.
You can't.
Nobody is good at everything. I'm really sorry to break the news to you. But we all have skill sets. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses.
Yep.
So do what you're good at, and there's
delegate the rest.
There's somebody out there that loves doing the thing that you hate.
I love how you say almost everything I say. We are like mano. It's perfect. So people, I didn't make that stuff up. She says it just like I do. Yeah. It's perfect. That's why I knew I had to have you on today. Mm-hmm. And let's continue to stay in touch, please. And for everybody out there, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a review, because I cannot wait to find out who wins that day with me this year. When we're going to dive deep, Monique, we're going to take somebody, and the two of us are going to spend the day together. We're going to eat, we're going to drink, we're going to strategize, we're going to break everything down in their business, and we're going to help them decide what kind of support and what they need to get off their plates.
Love it.
So I can't wait. Thank you so much again for being here, and have a great day, night, evening, whenever you're listening, everybody. Thank you.
So that's it for today's episode of Delegate to Elevate. Head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $15,000 private VIP day with Bonnie herself. Be sure to head on over to delegatetoelevatepodcast.com. That's with the number 2. And pick up a free copy of Bonnie's gift and join us on the next episode.